We have heard ministers' view on how we can prepare to adopt AI technology to do better in our work and in our lives. Next up, we will see how AI has already been put into action by key industry players. Convening experts in technology, law, and business, this panel will share AI adoption strategies and how to address workforce concerns and legal considerations in the face of this new technology. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Rajesh Sreenivsan, Ms. Jessie Xia, Mr. Richard Koh, and our moderator, Mr. Laurence Liew. For our audience, we invite you to once again scan the new QR code to the Poll Everywhere platform where you can pose your question to the panelists. Mr. Liew, the time is yours.
Welcome back, everyone. So thanks for making time today. And I'd like to thank all my panelists again for agreeing to do this. It's not easy to find three distinguished folks in the industry that have been working in AI very deeply the last couple of years. So we have both a technology vendor that is at the leading edge of AI, Richard, CTO from Microsoft. We have a thought leader in IT, Jessie, who is the global CIO of Thoughtworks, for those who are in software engineering. And if you still remember your gang of four, your design patterns, and your agile programming, a lot of those ideas actually came from the folks over at Thoughtworks. And Rajesh, who is a partner in Rajah and Tann, he is not only a lawyer, but also a tech geek, from what I understand, right? And also a very big user of AI and technology. So myself, I'm Laurence from AI Singapore. Very happy to moderate this event. And today's topic is really on leadership, regulation, and the future of work. Over the next hour, we hope to touch on, we can't go too deeply, obviously, but at least give you a sense on what is happening in the industry, what some of the players here are doing back in their organizations, and what they are seeing that's happening. So before I go into the panel proper, I thought I wanted to share a report that came out about probably a couple of weeks back from Goldman Sachs that created a little bit of hoo-ha in the AI circle. If you only read the highlights, it would seem that the next AI winter is coming. But if you actually read through it, I didn't have time, so I asked, in this case, Google Gemini to read it for me and summarize it. Basically, the 7 points is that, and the topic, the report is Gen AI, too much spend, too little benefit, by Goldman Sachs Global Investment Research. The top 7 points is there is significant debate about the potential economic impacts of AI, and some are predicting very large productivity and GDP gains, but some are saying there's very limited upside over the next decade. Tech companies are spending hundreds of billions on AI infrastructure and development. Microsoft. Power demand is expected to surge because of the AI data centers requirements. So it will require significant infrastructure investment. There will continue to be chip shortages, GPUs, CPUs, and so on. And there are many analysts who are optimistic about AI long-term potential, even if immediate killer applications have not yet emerged. Okay, they argue that eventually it will pay off in the long run. And the AI team continues to drive the equity market. And while spending in AI investments continues, there are still major uncertainties around the timeline, magnitude, and distribution of this impact. And I really like, when Professor James Landay framed it, right? It's not going to be the next 1 or 2 years. It's going to be 5, 10, 15 years before we're going to see a lot of these AI impact coming into play. So with that as a background, right, let's get back to this future of work. And the questions to my panelists here is, based on the Goldman Sachs frame, AI is rapidly transforming industries and the nature of work. And from your respective perspectives, what are the most significant opportunities and challenges that you have seen? Richard?
Okay. First of all, thank you. Thanks, Laurence. And thank you, NUS Lifelong Learning Organizing Committee, for inviting me and Microsoft to this. I saw a lot of familiar faces, so this is great. It's lovely to see all of you again. This is a very hot topic. I've been quite on stage very often talking about this, opportunities and as well as some of the challenges. I think when you take a step back and really kind of think about the technology itself right now, it is approximating almost human intelligence in some ways, the capabilities itself. And in many ways, what it does is that it struck a very deep emotional chord within ourselves as humans, right? And this is the most interesting thing that we observe. But also at the same time, it poses a kind of emotional responses as well from within us when we think about whether is it the opportunities or the challenges that we will face. What will happen to our jobs? How would we change the way we think about creating new things and things like that? So we think that this is the kind of technology that really will empower human achievement. And I think this is where a lot of things that we have not imagined before, that it's going to come about. If I were to ask this room right now, close your eyes and imagine a color that you have never seen before. Would it be possible? It's probably not, because you're built from all the experiences that you have had in the past before. But what this technology is supposedly be able to do is to then help to unlock some of that colors that we've never seen before. I like to tell the story. This just happened back in March. I was vacationing with my college son, and he said that, hey, I needed to do some homework. I was telling some of my panelists earlier, I showed them a picture, and he whipped out his laptop, and he was doing some code and all that. And by the way, I didn't teach him how to code. But the window next to it was Copilot. And he was literally, kind of copying and pasting some snippets of the code and asking Copilot to explain what is it trying to do and things like that. And I was like, wow, this is the way he learns right now. There is almost a personal tutor kind of sitting next to him and empowering him to be able to not just learn faster from an efficiency perspective, but perhaps even prompt him to think about some other aspects of the code itself, which was really amazing. I took a photo of that and shared it around. But what I think is, back to also Minister Chan's earlier point about that customization at scale. And this is, for example, this is one of the partnerships that we have with, Saul Khan from Khan Academy, who was an ex-investor, so referencing to Goldman Sachs report. And his vision to literally create a personalized tutor for every student on the planet. And I think that bold ambition and that bold vision is very, very doable right now. But of course, I think as technologists, we're always, geeking about, wow, this technology, what it can do and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's also truly needed to be balanced with the way how we think it will impact society as well. If you all remember back in 2016, who here have heard about that Twitter bot that we released that went kind of racist in one day. Right, so if you remember that Twitter bot, it was called Tay, and Microsoft did this experiment, and we discovered the other dark side of the human race, and it, a lot of people hacked into that bot and teach it to become really racist itself, and that was when I think it spurred us and Satya Nadella penned an article for Slate magazine back in 2016, kind of laying out that 6 principle around responsible AI itself, and really thinking about what's inclusiveness, fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, security, accountability, all of that to then guide the way how we think about the developments of that. So these are some of the challenges that even today, as society, we're still going to be grappling with, because the notion of some of these concepts is going to be different from different societies as well, whether here in Singapore or versus a, let's say, more Western society or more Eastern society. We're going to have different kind of values and interpretation of fairness, for example. So I think those are the kind of opportunities that face us, and looking forward to having more of these discussions with all of you.
And Jessie, I mean, as a global CIO of Thoughtworks, a global company, you used to have to face customers as MD. Now it's internal customers. So what are some of the challenges and opportunities you see in AI?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Laurence. And I'll probably do a little bit introduction about myself. So I joined Thoughtworks almost 19 years ago. And I've done so many different roles. By the way, I'm not a deep techie, half techie, because my education background was not computer science, and then I'm doing something like more accounting or HR, but later I was doing consulting, more business related, business analyst, project management, client management. For those who don't know Thoughtworks, global technology consulting company, and headquartered in the US. So I joined, when I joined 19 years ago, I joined from China. So the time I did multiple roles, and I moved to Singapore 8 years ago. I was a managing director for this region. So the time I run the business, and I was responsible for P&L. And then about 1.5 years ago, so I stepped into the role as a global CIO, which I'm looking after the internal IT, including everything about the software, all the software we use, including things we bought. And then definitely we bought services from Microsoft and a lot of other companies. And also we built our in-house software as well. And also the hardware we need to use, all kind of in the scope of my team. So my team is very global. I have people in probably 19 countries. Not all the countries of our business, but mostly. So yes, currently I'm kind of end user for the AI. Well, I still sometimes assist the business to meet some clients, but majority of my focus is internal usage. So AI, a big topic. Since last year, we start trying a lot of things, and then the potential is huge. And even the recent few months, we conducted some activity about each business function. They need to do a little bit research with definitely support from my team about how AI, what kind of opportunities general AI can provide to their business functions, and what are the challenges as well. So just the cases are just so many. I'll give you a couple of examples. One is the recruitment team, right? Definitely there's a lot of things the AI can assist the recruiters, the interviewer to do. So many times you need to, we have like a database of questions depending on the competencies, attributes. Then you have the question, you ask the candidates, and then you make sense of their answers, and then you follow up the questions to discover more. And then after that, you have to write a summary. You have to evaluate. And a lot of time, the recruiters are chasing the interviewer to give the feedback. It's very painful. So AI actually can help to reduce a lot of those work. We are not really outsourcing everything to AI, because humans still very important, and also remove a lot of biases, like we mentioned earlier. So, but it can really make you much more productive, and then the experience is much better, because you don't have to do a lot of boring work. You can focusing on the creative work. The other cases, like one big case used in my team is because we have a lot of software, we have to do a lot of maintenance support work, which is boring to our knowledge worker. These people really love to do the creative jobs, especially in my company where many thought leaders about the tech industry. So the maintenance support is really not something people like to do. And we actually leverage the AI technology to do the ops, which many things we could make it a lot easier. So for example, the supporting tickets, you can leverage a lot of knowledge, experience you had before for so many years. You can immediately recommend some solutions. And you can have people who are maybe in the early stage of their career, they can just handle these things while they grow, and then they can do other things. And some tickets actually gradually, when we train a model, and then they will be able to handle some cases directly, close those tickets. You don't need a human to do those simple ones. You only leave those more challenging stuff to human. So the case is just countless, and then we are keep exploring. But on the other side is, can we afford everything? And there's another interesting thing we see is some cases initially we feel is very unique to our cases. Then we have to build our own AI features instead of just leveraging the existing products. But over the time, we see some products, they are started to building more features into the product. Gradually, they can really cater our requirements. And then we have to make a decision in certain points, say, stop building your own features, and then you can look at what their roadmap and leverage them more, and start paying for the licenses to do our job as well. So those are many opportunities, definitely challenges. I think some of these are, we all know, the ethical things and also the biases. But for our cases, I think currently some focus areas more data protection, data privacy. Because one of the other cases I forgot to mention is using AI for search. So it's much more intelligent in searching things, especially for knowledge worker. A lot of time we want to reuse some of the things we already created and then build on top of it instead of reinventing the views. But the company has 30 years of history, so many great things. How you can find the most relevant content, it's a big challenge, always is very challenging. So now there are some searching tools that are very intelligent. They can really exactly find what you need, give you a good recommendation. However, those tools indexing, a lot of your knowledge, which can be confidential, private, and also depending on, are they making a copy of your data? Where do they host the data? Are they violent some data protection rules like GDPR? So a lot of things you have to consider. So now we are running some pilots for some of these tools, and in the same time, the security and the data protection, our colleagues, they are in the place and then give recommendations how we handle those things. So one side, we want to keep leveraging more about the AI technology. On the other side, have to involve those guys in the early stage to make sure you get the right thing done as well.
Okay. So thanks Jessie for that. And now to Rajesh, as a law firm that also uses AI and also advise a lot of customers, right? So what are some of the significant opportunities that you have seen over the last couple of years and the challenges?
Well, the legal sector is not very different from any other sector where it's cognitive focused, you're thinking and giving solutions. But what is clear, and I think, I was reading a couple of interesting reports to try and prepare for this, and one from IMF, which was specifically on AI and the future of work, interestingly enough, focused on the fact that in advanced societies like ours, 60% of our workforce is going to be affected by AI. And that's because a lot of the work that we do is thinking-related work. So for lawyers, yes, what we do, in a sense, is analytical, and so the impact is quite palpable. So what do we do to try and address this? I think opportunities and challenges, both are there. I think maybe I always like to start with opportunities. And I think when you look at opportunities, there are new types of jobs that are being created in the legal sector today. Because our Chief Justice and others have been very instrumental in telling lawyers don't sit on our laurels. This is not going to last forever. This is a very dynamic industry. It's not actually a very old, stoic industry. There's this thing in law called precedents, right? That means we look at old cases, and then we pull up the old cases and say, you see, because this judge in 1820 said this, therefore today in 2024, the same rule should apply. That sort of certainty is necessary in business, true, because then you know what is right, what is wrong. But in today's world, that is an impediment because it forces us to always look backwards. How do you change lawyers who tend to always look at precedent, support, background, to now say, no, throw all that away. Let's look at the future. Let's look at the way in which law can become more dynamic and more suitable and relevant to society today. That's the challenge that he threw to all of us. And that inspired a lot of lawyers like myself to say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to think differently. And so a new breed of lawyers that are going to come through in future is something you all should be aware of. Both NUS and SMU are looking at infusing computational capabilities into lawyers. So there's things like the Center for Computational Law at SMU, where computer science students, having already done their degree, come in and spend time learning the law. And then they come out and they become a subject matter expert in AI, in technology, in the legal sector. So the challenge for us as law firms is we need to change our way of remuneration and recognizing talent. Not just lawyers, but non-lawyers who work hand in hand with us to really bring these new types of solutions to the market. And so that is described in the industry as allied legal professionals. Those in the medical sector will be very familiar with allied medical professionals, AMPs, everything from nurses to, yes, radiologists, they're still there, and others. These are skills that are very relevant. A doctor cannot do their job without the support of these very important people. And similarly for lawyers as well, now there'll be this new generation of allied legal professionals without whom lawyers won't be able to do our jobs. So that's how we embed it. But there are challenges, and one of the challenges, of course, is job displacement. So all the young lawyers I talk to today, they come to me and say, how, can I join you or not? 5 years, will you still need as many lawyers? As a senior partner in the firm, my view is we absolutely do need young lawyers still. And I think some of the good ideas have already been shared earlier. To me, the question is, do you know how to leverage AI or do you not, as the good professor had shared earlier today? And so our aim is to make sure that we give access to all of our lawyers to artificial intelligence platforms like Copilot, and then legally trained platforms like Harvey and Co-Counsel, where you can talk to the AI in a sense, not like a generic AI like ChatGPT, but you talk to it as if it's another lawyer. And it understands context, it understands precedent, and it will give you answers that are curated, right? The term that was shared earlier, retrieval augmented generation. So garbage in, garbage out. So you make sure you put good stuff in, and then you get good responses back, relevant response. So those are types of changes that are happening.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation with you, 7, 8 years ago, where you say, well, lawyers used to be, they have to go to this library and dig out all the past cases, but moving forward, it's really one press of a button and the summary is there. And lawyers need new skills. They need to move up the chain. So going back to you, Rajesh, I mean, we want to also understand a little bit more about the issues of regulations, not issue of regulation, but let's say, AI, copyright regulations, because today with Gen AI, there's a lot of concerns of the use of generated materials, whether will I violate some copyrights or not. In fact, at another panel I was on yesterday, the question was AI-generated content, who owns the copyright? So maybe you can share your insights.
You had to give me the hard question, right? The interesting answer to the question is it's still in a state of flux. There's so much interesting precedent coming out of China, coming out of the US, that take very different positions. In the US, generally, the view is you need to show something known as an inventive step or some sort of positive, significant contribution. And therefore, areas like prompt engineering, for example, is viewed very skeptically. So how much of that prompt is yours? And how much of that processing then done by the computer should actually be the computer's? So here's the interesting thing, right? If you ask Microsoft or others, do you want copyright over the stuff that's generated? Very often they say, no, we don't want it. So that's a good thing because it means that the people who are creating the content will not find much opposition from the people who actually own the technology with regard to the content. The challenge is the training data that was used to train the large language models, because that process of training has to be done in a responsible manner. And I think in the early days, everybody just grabbed everything and put it in. Not many people thought about copyright issues. This is why you must always have a lawyer in the room. but fair enough, because you move fast, break things, fix it, and then carry on again. But now these hard questions are being asked. So like I said, the training data becomes important. And there again, there are technical solutions like retrieval augmented generation. You choose good content, put it in, tell the model, use this as your basis, and then answer these questions. So I think that's really the way in which things are changing. In China, there appears to be actually a bit more respect for the input given through prompts, to the extent that, if you draft, let's say, a significant prompt and you're able to demonstrate that these prompts actually engineered the creation of the output, then the ownership should be that of the persons who actually prompted the engine. So we'll see how. I think the Chinese cases are actually very persuasive, and I won't be surprised if you actually find for the first time that people will be using Chinese dicta to decide laws, and I think Singapore may be one of the first, but don't quote me on that.
And since we are talking about the technology and all, maybe to Richard, right? So with RAG, with large context, what are the trends and advancement that within NDAs and what you can share, right? What do you see the future of AI being shaped, and what will be coming up from Microsoft?
Oh dear. What will be coming out from us? Okay, so maybe let me see how I'll tackle this. Let's take a step back. I think when if you can recall the history of when I guess when Thomas Edison was trying to create electricity to light a light bulb, right, and then be able to bring light during the darker hours of the day, and then allow people to do things. That was a general purpose technology, right? Electricity itself. And if you think about that kind of whole invention created a tech stack, if you will, right? Then you got figuring out fuels, how to create the electricity, you got the power plants, distribution networks, all of that, and kind of right at the very top of that tech stack, it's the appliances, right? So imagine you walk into a house and you find a washing machine and a fan. So a lot of innovation happened on top of that tech stack, if you will. This is, in many ways, this is how Microsoft is viewing our role in this, is how are we building that stack itself? And when we think about that from, let's say, just from the infrastructure side of things, whether it's the networks, it's the data centers, it's the servers that goes inside there, it's the chipsets and all of that. It's the InfiniBand networks that connects the server racks and all that, and then connect to that. How do you run the models on top of that? And the databases associated with that, as well as all the different kind of application platform developer tools like GitHub Copilot, for example. I think we see our role in that, in creating this stack itself. But if we were to think about that whole notion around electricity itself, I think as you see, if you go back to history and you see the proliferation of electricity throughout the world itself, you see there's a kind of correlation between the installation of power plants and all of that to the real GDP growth of that, part of community, part of society or that country itself. And yet, the proliferation of that technology itself took some decades before it reached certain countries itself. And then for those countries to then follow the trajectory of that GDP growth. Now, we think that in our company, we want to be able to bring and democratize the accessibility of AI to the world. And this will possibly help to generate new growth, new surpluses in the economy itself, in new ways of doing work, things like that. So how do we do that and then bring about that technology accessible to everyone? Whether you're a student, whether you're an office worker, whether you're frontline working as a nurse in a hospital, how does that technology then come into play in your daily lives itself? That accessibility is important. So across the world right now, certainly in terms of building that tech stack, we're certainly doing a lot of construction of data centers. You might have heard of that if you looked into. Sorry, this is quiet period, so I'm not allowed to say some numbers because we're going to be releasing our earnings soon. But there's a lot, just a sheer number of construction in that particular space itself, just bringing that availability to all the different countries itself. Now, when we have conversations around the world with different countries, there are sometimes there's that tension, if you will, right? And we see it in our role. Some would say, oh gosh, you are so big as a big tech itself. So, what we are concerned about that. And I think to that we say, well, I think there's a certain level of scale that's required, and we think there's a certain level of scale that's required before we can actually somebody can or some organization can have to be able to invest and build this infrastructure and bring that technology to every corner of the world itself. So I think where we see some of this technology, it's that the frontier models are going to get better. There's going to be smaller models as well. We've seen some of the works that were done around 5.3, for example, and some of these models are good enough to fit inside your smartphone going forward as well. And I think when we think about these models that are let's say, evolving, there's also, let's say, potential for us to embed a lot more intelligence in the way we think about all the, whether is it edge computing, sensors, all that is out there. So, look, I think I don't have a crystal ball, even though I'm supposedly the CTO, but I think what I always say is that, okay, I'm looking at the room here. I think probably like maybe half the room here have teenagers at home. Yeah? Yes? Do I get nods on the head? Okay, if you don't have one, please go and borrow one, rent one. And then really observe and how they are interacting with these technologies itself, because it will give you a glimpse into what that potential future is going to look like. Just the way that they interact with the technology. So you can imagine the amount of experiment I do on my, 2 teenage boys. I pepper them with a lot of questions. But I think the way we have learned, the way we have think about technology, it's going to be fundamentally different from the next generation as well. So having that growth mindset, having that open learning mindset to be able to not say discard, just like, okay, this is how we learned before. Let's see how the next generation is going to be tackling this. I think we'll see some glimpse of the future.
Thanks. I really like the analogy of that tech stack from electricity and now with AI, right? So the tech stack for AI, I can see it as, you have the power stations, the data centers, and then the appliances, not your toasters, not your fridge, but the appliances will be your co-pilots to do very specific tasks for you on a daily basis. And it can be created already today, right? So it's for everyone to learn how to create those co-pilots and assistants that will help you in your tasks every day. So, going back to Jessie, right? You were saying that, you getting employees in Thoughtworks to start using AI and so on. So that's about preparing the workforce for the future of work, equipping individuals with the skills and knowledge necessary to thrive. So can you tell us a little bit more how is Thoughtworks going about doing that? Because I think this would be very relevant to organizations here that is also trying to get their workforce to what we call AI aware or AI ready.
Sure, yeah. I think a good thing for Thoughtworks is because consulting company, we are knowledge workers. So it's not very difficult to convince people keep learning. And also, in the tech industry, it's by default. You learn every day. It's a whole life school. Like for me, I have been tech industry for my whole life so far. And it's just, you in a university, never graduate. So I think that's same for all of my colleagues. So then we always have a lot of things like self-paced learning, a lot of things available online, our own learning system, learning online platform, and also some external resources were provided to employees as well. And also they are empowered with some training budget, training leaves to do their own trainings. But only these are not enough. The other things, I think the leaders, you can set a direction. So the employees knows what they should focus, because nowadays so many things to learn. So normally what we do is we set some vision, direction, and then we also encourage people to do certain things. We visualize some of the results about what type of skills people are learning, and then maybe some of the things they do related to their learning, and then they publish some internal blogs as well. I think all these are create really good motivations for people continue to learn, and then learning something important for the company, for the services we provide to our clients or internal clients as well. But some other things we also do is we run hackathons regularly. So for my team, roughly 2 times a year, we run hackathons, and then we partner with some other company. Like last 2 times, we mostly partners with Google, the Vertex AI Vertex Studio, to use their models to build stuff. And with these, normally we'll invest a couple of days, and people register. And then they brainstorming ideas, and then working with their business stakeholders. And then we do selection about what ideas are more promising, and then they start just doing the implementation in 2 days, and then later they do a showcase. So, I mean, the hackathon, sometimes maybe the idea is really great. You can put those things in production, but not necessarily. A lot of time, I just told them, maybe what you build, we don't have to put in production, because to be honest, there are a lot of things, they are sooner available in the market, because these 2 companies, they just so fast now. So may not make sense to deploy in the production. But the key thing is learning by doing these things, right? Not only your day-to-day things which are important to the business, but some other stuff is it's just out of your passion. And you want to learn something, and those 2 days give a really good time for them to put some learning into practice. And the other things actually the company did last year was really good, which earlier I mentioned to Richard. We did a AI festival, and for everyone in the company, because the AI tool is expensive. We can't afford to buy all the necessary tool licenses for everyone, because you need a coding, AI coding tools, some design tools, some other tools, right? There's just so many tools. So during the festival, we partner with a few companies, and they provided free licenses to all the employees. Depending on your roles, you can choose some coding tools, you can choose some design or other tools. So it's all free, about 1 month, or some actually extended a little bit, about a few months. So everyone got a chance to use those tools. And later, after that, we found certain groups, they really can get advantage from certain tools, and with strong ROIs, and then we purchase those tools, and then they can continue using them. Or some of the clients, they pay for licenses for these tools too. So I think all these things, you can really help the employees to not only just learning the knowledge, and also put the knowledge into practices. I also agree with Minister earlier said, is like a hobby, right? You need to make time for that. Even learning, the company will invest time, not enough. Especially knowledge worker, you have to invest your own time too. So that's we always educate our people, because these things you learned, you apply to your work, and then it does create a value to the company, to the customers. It also help you yourself as well. So it's sort of like a half-half. The company invests, please you invest something on your own time too, otherwise it's not enough time to learn. But with all these things, I don't see the reluctance about learning. It's actually always a very good learning culture in the company. But just to share something the leaders can do, which encourage those behaviors too.
Okay, thanks. So Richard, next year, Microsoft must sponsor the tools.
Okay.
So let's go to some of the questions that we have from the floor. And this one's really, I think, to Rajesh. How will you convince your data protection and cybersecurity folks that we need to integrate AI into our work while risks still exist?
So there are two things here. First is liability, right? Because everyone's concerned, okay, I take personal data, I crunch it, it goes out there somehow, then we're going to get sued for it. And there it's really a question of, very simple, it's notification. You need to tell people that you're going to be using AI solutions in the way in which you're going to provide services. And make sure that they give consent and let them know that if you're not going to give us consent, because these tools are so foundational in terms of the way in which we provide the services, then it's going to affect the way in which we can actually provide the service. So that's step number one. Step number two is actually the way in which you are using these tools, right? And to be very, very careful when you have to, if at all, use any personal data. From a data protection standpoint, that means training your people, having enough materials internally. For example, the way we do it at Rajah and Tann, because we have a lot of personal data, is to have a set of guidelines. So we have a specific guideline with regard to the use of generative AI, which we issue to all of our associates and partners, and let them know that, you know, if you're using, let's say, ChatGPT, open source, very transparent, they keep telling you, if you put anything in here, don't expect that we're going to use it to train our engine. Then never, ever put any client data into that environment. Right? It's an absolute no. You can use it to do other stuff, right? To create write-ups, notes for, you know, discussions, marketing materials, LinkedIn posts, etc., but not work. If you want to use work, then use a controlled enterprise-ready platform. So that's where, if it's something where we need to get it ingested, we need to use something like Harvey or something like Copilot, where, number one, the service provider gives you an indemnity with regard to third-party content, and they protect that part. And number two, even then, be very careful about using personal data. When you do these things, then your data protection officer, for context, I'm the DPO for Rajah and Tann Asia, not voluntarily. If any DPOs out there, you have my sympathy. When a managing partner calls and say, you are the DPO, okay, fine. Because they will have to take the contrary view. They'll be like, no, cannot. You can't use any personal data. I think that would be incorrect. I think you need to use personal data in a responsible way. But as far as AI is concerned, as far as you can, try and use anonymized data. Right? You don't always need to put a person's name to be able to get the actual answer to questions that you actually need. So try very hard not to put personal data into AI systems, even though you have indemnities and you're protected from a liability standpoint. You just don't know how that engine is going to use that data moving forward. So as a matter of best practice, don't do it. The best example, if you want to look at, is the banking sector. They have this thing known as the FEAT. The MAS has issued a fairness, ethical, accountability, and transparency-based model. Look at that. I know it's only for the banking sector, but we use the same model to sort of train other organizations. And a big part of FEAT is very limited use of personal data.
Thanks. The next two question is on change strategy that converges top management understanding and policy for AI adoption with grounds up staff fragmented use of AI solutions, and how does an organization prepare for change for both knowledge on the ground workers in regards to AI, and how would training differ for both groups? So I think Jessie covered a little bit of that. And I just want to add, not last 2 days, I think earlier this week, we did a AI for Leaders and AI Discovery workshop for a large organization. The chairman brought 400 of their management together for a 2 days workshop. And not only was, we did the usual 2-hour session on what is AI, what does it mean, and so on. They actually spent the whole day doing discovery, AI discovery, as in trying to figure out what are the possible AI use cases that they have within their departments, from HR to procurement to production, because this is a large manufacturing firm, and even to their plantation. So it was a way so the chairman was very smart. It is a way for all management to learn about AI, but was also a way for them to bond over as a team, because HR, we told HR to be very specific, bring people across different domains to work together in one table, but also bring people across different factories to be on the same table, because the potential AI use cases you see in factory A may be very similar to what you see in factory B. So this also gives them an opportunity to ideate across, but also importantly, also to see each other face to face after so many years of COVID. So with that, I hope it answered these two questions. And the next one is really directly to Microsoft. Well, NUS and government has been giving rebates and subsidies to people on learning new skills. Would Microsoft be putting in more effort in subsidizing SMEs or to lower the cost barrier for applying AI tech into their day-to-day business and processes, specifically in Singapore? We have actually done it, right?
We've actually done it, yes.
For those who are not aware, together with Microsoft, AI Singapore, Microsoft, and with the support of Enterprise Singapore, we have managed to convince Enterprise Singapore to fund 50% of the co-pilot license fee for our SMEs. So if you are not aware or if you have not got onto the program, please go and talk to your Microsoft vendor and partner. The budget is limited. We are supposed to, the target is 1,000 SMEs. The last update I had from my from my staff is over 300 SMEs have already signed up. So there's only 700 slots left. Please, for the SMEs here, please quickly go and get that done. And also back to Rajesh's comment, it's not about just calling a vendor and say, I want Microsoft Copilot. It's not so straightforward. Microsoft will actually have their partner to come down and do a evaluation, a governance, to make sure that your data and all are properly, it's obviously secure, but you have proper governance in place, who can see what data and so on. Because you do not want a staff to say, what's the salary of my CEO? So that needs to be in place. So Microsoft have a specific checklist to make sure that this governance is processed before they even allow you to buy Copilot. So maybe, Richard, you can share a little bit more.
Look, Laurence, you covered all. And by the way, for all of you in the room here, this is the brainchild of Laurence, right? He just came to me and said, hey, we should do this. I'm like, wow, that's bold, that's great. And I think just like I mentioned earlier, we want to be able to bring this technology to all. Yes, there is obviously a cost to it when we think about delivering this technology to the masses itself. Of course, and this is all buttressed with the capital investments that we have made on these technology itself. But I think when it comes to adoption itself, it's not just simply about the cost aspect of it. Where we see successes, and like what Jessie was outlining on what her company was doing, and I was telling Rajesh as well, 2 weeks ago, I was in Seattle, and we had an internal sales kickoff. We flew about 5,000-6,000 people into Seattle, and Rajah and Tann's video was kind of like flash all over, which was great, right? Great for me, coming from Singapore. I think something like this needs to be a leader-led transformation. It cannot be a bottoms-up. If your CEO and chairman do not understand the implications of this to his or her business, I think that's a real challenge itself. So when we share the stories about how we do it ourselves, right? So we are customer zero. It's really important to roll it out and put it into the hands of whole departments for ourselves, right? Whether it was our sales teams, whether it was our HR teams, guess what? The finance people in our organization are the most avid user of Copilot. Finance, okay? I don't know why. Well, we tell the story actually publicly, on our website, adoption.microsoft.com. But I think the thing is this: we think that when you look at this transformation itself, when there is concerted effort of putting the technology into the hands of the individual user, they will come up with colors we have never seen before. The imagination of the human ingenuity is just boundless. And I think that is where we can unlock the human potential itself. So really looking forward to some of the SMEs that are using this technology and how they will transform their businesses, how they will bend the curve of innovation itself. So exciting times ahead. But it is his brainchild.
Thank you. So back on that, right, and the fact that you need the management to actually drive it, and that opportunity actually came about, and I'll take Aaron's a lead, right, to plug, not NUS course, but my book. So the chairman actually found my book, or rather one of the staff found my book, AI First Nation, and got the chairman to read. And that was when he said, okay, let's get Laurence and the team to come down and do this workshop for us. One of the reasons why I wrote this book is not just to tell about the AI Singapore story, but also as a real proof point. Now, you will hear people saying, oh, we use AI for this, AI for that, and so on. This is my proof point on how AI has made me 4, 5, 10x more productive. I started writing this book in March this year. I published the Kindle version in June, self-published, 3 months. And the physical one came about a month later. And how did I use Gen AI? And you have to be very careful. Like what Rajesh was saying, I own the whole copyright. I did not ask Gen AI to generate the book. I created a very sophisticated prompt. I fed the Gen AI with content from myself, from all my notes, all my PowerPoint. In fact, I narrated my usual AI Singapore pitch, which got transcribed. That means from speech to text. And I basically prompted Gen AI to say, please be a biographer. I'm an NUS staff, AI Singapore, but we are under NUS. I'm not rich enough to employ a biographer to write my book for me. So I prompted Gen AI. I paid $20 a month, US, Gemini. Hey, you be a biographer. This is all the content. Please prompt me for each chapter deep probing questions. And then I narrated. So I spent about 5 or 6 sessions, 30, 40 minutes each time to narrate. So every time I see a question, initially I actually typed. Then I later realized, hey, there's a microphone icon there. So I basically now click and just narrate the answer. So I did that over a couple of nights and weekends, and that's how I got all the content in. So content is mine. So when I then went to the next stage of trying to publish, Amazon was very clear. There's a difference between AI generated. They ask you to declare whether is it an AI-generated book, which then will lead to all sorts of reviews and so on, or is it an AI-assisted book, where you use AI to assist you to format the book, spell check, and whatever else. So this is an AI-assisted book. All the content came from me, and nothing is generated in the sense that there's nothing creatively generated. What you see here is content that AI has helped me rephrase, make it a little bit more consistent throughout, and so on and so forth. So 3 months to publish a book. So I am not Minister Chan. I can't get, but my challenge to you all is go back and try to write your story. How do you go about writing the prompt to get this done? It's actually in this book. And if you subscribe to the mailing list, I will send you the whole prompt also. So learn how to write a prompt. It's not difficult. And in fact, over the last 2 weekends, I've actually got a chatbot up that you can chat with the book. It just takes a weekend to do that today. It's very simple. And over the last weekend, while doing the discovery workshop for the customer, while my staff was working, I was creating another chatbot. I mentioned about AI aware, AI ready, AI competent, AI unaware. That is what we call the AI readiness index. If you want to find out how AI matured you are as an organization, you can now chat with the book to find out your AI readiness. Okay? So with that, we have ran out of time, and maybe just to invite a closing statement from the panelists, starting with Richard. Just one closing statement, your thoughts about the future of work.
I think what Professor James earlier presented was really succinct itself, right? It's not that AI is going to replace, humans in many ways, and it's how we are. It's the person who used the AI that's going to come and replace you who are not using AI. But look, I think there are sound bites like this. There are statements that are being made. At the end of the day, we have a general purpose technology here that is really poised to empower and unlock human achievement. And here on this planet right now, we do have a lot of challenges to solve, right? Whether it's climate change, whether it's social networks being manipulated, things like that. We have the 2024 is the largest year where a lot of countries are having elections and elections manipulations, things like that. These technologies need to help us, and what I want to really encourage everybody to do is really to think how we can harness these capabilities, build on it, and help our next generation, inherit a better planet.
Thank you. Jessie?
Okay, mine is simple. AI in action. That's why lifelong learning is even more important for everyone.
Thank you. Rajesh?
I think for me, it's, many of people who come up often ask, do we need a law that covers and addresses AI? I think just to put a wish list, if I may, very, very briefly. Firstly, don't always ask for law. Sometimes it's better not to ask for things unless you really understand what it's about. I think Singapore's approach has been correct, which is to look at building standards, technical standards that people can comply with. Then you build the law around those standards. When I was in Canada in April last year, I tried to start up Google Bard, as it was then known, now Gemini, and it says this service is not available in your country, right? Because Canada had come up with draft laws without explaining to people how to comply with the law. So do think about that. I think many people here in the room will be very instrumental, work on those technical standards, help us lawyers as well to then create laws that actually make sense and that actually will help you.
Thank you. And with that, a warm round of applause for my panelists.